thanks for having me. My name is Rebecca Alexander. As you know, I'm actually not directing Wake Downtown anymore, so that is a slightly old bio. I just want to give credit that is somebody else is leading that admirably, Alana James, who some of you may know, so I don't want to take credit away from her. So I'm happy to be here today. So I am not an expositor. I said that earlier, and someone said, yeah, everybody who's not from the divinity school says that when they start, just as a disclaimer. And that's also why I chose one of the Psalms from the lectionary, and it's the same reason I use E. coli as a biology model as a chemist, because E. coli is the easiest organism to work with and understand if you're not a real biologist. And while I've read the Bible through several times and sat under some great teachers over the years growing up in the church, the Psalms are direct enough that even a non-expert can extract something to communicate. And so that's why I chose a Psalm, because I thought, I'm not going to stretch my ability from other passages. So if you have it in front of you on your phone or otherwise, feel free to pull it up. I'm just going to have a few observations. So we'll start with some observations. So the Psalm seems to be in three parts, and not just because I'm a Protestant, but there seems to be a verses 1 to 3, 4 to 6, and 7 to 9. So in verses 1 to 3, and I can read that part again for you. So verses 1 to 3, "Oh, sing to the Lord a new song," which we did, "for he has done marvelous things. His right hand and his holy arm have worked salvation for him. The Lord has made known his salvation. He has revealed his righteousness in the sight of the nations. He has remembered his steadfast love and faithfulness to the house of Israel. All the ends of the earth have seen the salvation of our God." So the psalmist isn't identified here at the beginning. I always picture David as the psalmist. I know he's not the author of all the Psalms, but when it's not attributed, I figure that's a pretty safe assumption. So he commands the community to sing. So why? So if you have it in front of you, what word is repeated 3 times, at least in this English translation? Did anyone pick that up? Salvation. Okay, so there's probably other words repeated 3 times, I guess. So salvation is repeated 3 times. So the call to sing praises might be in response to a military victory. So he has done marvelous things. His right hand and holy arm have gained the victory. So that might be why we're called to sing. And also, the psalmist points out that his victory is obvious. It's not a secret. The Lord has revealed his righteousness. All the ends of the earth have seen the salvation of God. So I'm going to talk in a minute about some things that are mysterious in the scientific world, but the psalmist is pointing out that the victory that God has achieved for the people of Israel was not a secret. And it's revealed. So that's the first part. So we're called to sing praises because of God's salvation. And then in verses 4 to 6, "Make a joyful noise to the Lord, all the earth. Bring forth into joyous song and sing praises. Sing praises to the Lord with the lyre and the sound of melody, with trumpets and the sound of the horn. Make a joyful noise before the King, the Lord." So the psalmist renews his call to sing, but a little bit more specifically this time. So can anyone figure out what's the attitude we're supposed to have as we're singing? Joyful, yes. Joyful, joyous, joyful is mentioned several times in there. And also, the singing was beautiful today. The playing was fabulous. But even if you're not a great singer, joyful noise is always a good call. In fact, when I was in high school, there was a few of us in youth group, and we had a little singing group that we called Joyful Noise, because we weren't great singers or musicians, and we just called ourselves Joyful Noise. Anyway, so we are to be joyous, make a joyful noise, and who? Well, all the earth, and not even just the people he's speaking to, but the psalmist is inviting everybody in. Make a joyful noise, all the earth. How? With strings and horns. So we don't have horns, but we have sticks, and we have beat boxes and tambourines and piano, so that's great. So all the strings, all the horns, and probably it's not just the people, but the horns, the instruments themselves are bringing that joyful noise. And the roly-polies. We're going to get to the animals. Yes, indeed. So finally, in verses 7 to 9, let the sea roar and all that fills it, the world and those who dwell in it. Let the rivers clap their hands. Let the hills sing for joy together before the Lord, for he comes to judge the earth. He will judge the world with righteousness and the peoples with equity. So in verses 7 to 9, it's not even just the humans and their instruments that praise, but all creation, everything. So what aspects of creation, the sea and all that fills it, the roly-polies, the giraffes, the algae, the rivers, and the hills, what verbs are used in this little section? What do the seas do? Roar, clap, sing, yes. So all the ways of shouting forth, even if words are not being used. So at the end, we're looking ahead. God will judge with righteousness. He'll judge the world with righteousness and the peoples with equity. I know that's not what we see now, right? But we are looking in hope toward righteousness and equity. And even though we know it's not explicit here in the psalm, we join, and I know that's what many of you are working towards, joining with our God in seeking the ultimate restoration of all creation, not just the earth. How do we restore and redeem what we've damaged as humans, but also its inhabitants? The humans that we interact with, the animals. So how are we part of that restorative recreation of the world that is not what it should be? It is a fallen world. So I know the theme of your semester, or maybe the whole year, I guess just the semester, is faith in a fractured world, right? So how is this psalm reflective of a fractured world? So anyone who knows the story of the Old Testament and the people that God called were imperfect, of course. So despite the salvation of God that the psalmist talks about here and celebrates here, God's people cycled between obedience and everyone did what was right in his own eyes, right? So read Judges and get whiplash, right? There was a time when my husband and I taught second grade Sunday school, so we go to Redeemer Presbyterian Church, and for some reason, whoever was in charge of the kids' curriculum decided we should just plow through the Bible and not pick and choose the fun stories. We had to teach Judges to second graders. So explaining concubine and cutting up the pieces of the concubine to the 12 tribes, that was a bit of a challenge. So we still have some trauma from that. So the world has always been fractured, right? So I chose this psalm out of the lectionary because it reminds me why I went into science. For the opportunity to study the creation that claps its figurative hands and shouts for joy. So I believe in a creator God who gave us curiosity about the natural world and the ability to study it. That doesn't mean I always understand it. And indeed, sometimes it seems like the more I investigate, the more questions arise. So we can talk about this later maybe, but so I study protein biosynthesis mechanisms and how proteins are made both quickly and accurately. So if you remember from high school biology, or maybe since then, DNA encodes genetic information. DNA is transcribed into RNA, and then RNA is translated into proteins, which do most of the work in our cells. So they catalyze chemical reactions, they provide structure, they provide defense against invaders when they act as antibodies, and there's a lot more we could talk about later if you want. One aspect of protein biosynthesis that surprises me and other researchers actually in the field is that we used to assume that protein synthesis, so going from the DNA genetic material to the proteins that do the work, had to be 100% accurate. And in fact, when you have mutations in the DNA or errors in translating proteins, often that does lead to disease like cancer and other diseases. But there are also mechanisms, and this is one area that I study, that allow errors to be made under certain situations in a particular protein to protect the organism overall. So in the presence of oxidative stress, sometimes translation is less accurate, and that allows the proteins that are made, so it's kind of a sacrificial system where that protein might not do what it was supposed to do, but it'll mop up the reactive oxygen species and allow the organism to survive. Okay, and so that's kind of a surprise where you'd expect perfection, but imperfection actually serves a bigger purpose So kind of cool, huh? So I'm not going to try to make a parallel with bad things happening in the cell for ultimate good of the cell. Try to make any parallel to like human suffering, because that's too simplistic, and it's harmful to say bad things happen for good reasons, because I don't want to go there. But my point is that there's a lot to understand in the natural world, even in the bacteria that I study. And just like in the human relational world, sometimes it doesn't make sense. So I believe that God invites us in to the study of his world. So whether that's studying the natural world of biochemistry, or the communities of imperfect humans in sociology, or the patterns around us in mathematics, or in whatever field that you interact with, so in divinity, in psychology, in social work, as you care for people in your congregations now or in the future. So my message to the Wake Forest community is to sing to the Lord a new song, for he has done marvelous things. And I trust whatever world your studies bring you into, you'll approach them with joy and curiosity and a new song, whatever that looks like in the next little bit. So I'm going to close with a reading of Psalm 98 from the Message, because I just kind of like occasionally to hear it in a different language. And I know that's not a translation, but I hope you appreciate the different words of the Message. So this is Psalm 98 in the Message. Sing to God a brand new song. He's made a world of wonders. He rolled up his sleeves to set things right. God made history with salvation. He showed the world what he could do. He remembered to love us, a bonus to his dear family Israel, indefatigable love. The whole earth comes to attention. Look, God's work of salvation. Shout your praises to God, everybody. Let loose and sing. Strike up the band. Round up an orchestra to play for God. Add on a 100-piece choir. Feature trumpets and big trombones. Fill the air with praises to King God. Let the sea and its fish give a round of applause, with everything living on earth joining in. Let ocean breakers call out encore, and mountains harmonize the finale. A tribute to God when he comes to set the earth right. He'll straighten out the whole world. He'll put the world right and everyone in it.
Amen.